So welcome to everybody. And lovely, lovely, lovely to see everybody. We are just about ready to start. We have, of course, the no Zoom protocols slide. I'm just going to tell you because by now everybody knows them. Keep your selves muted as you listen to the presentation. Please put your questions in the chat in capital letters. You can choose your language for listening if you are French or English to the interpretation by going to the globe at the bottom of your screen and selecting the language of choice that you would like to listen in. Remember, we have simultaneous interpretation, so please speak slowly for our interpreters. And as you know, we have the wonderful PDG Lara this evening to lead us in the Council on Legislation. Very, very important session tonight. District Governor Debbie is presenting in District 7020 this evening, so she'll be by at the end of our session to give her remarks and to send us off merrily. So let me, without any further ado, introduce PDG Lara. So, well known for her business networking skills and commitment to philanthropy, PDG Lara is a leading HR and recruitment services practitioner in Trinidad and Tobago with more than 30 years experience. That's odd. She's only 25. Okay. Her role as founder and chairman of Regency Recruitment and Resources includes strategic planning, crafting HR service proposals, and contracts, negotiating client, just 1 second. Of course, the technology has failed me at the moment. That's when you don't plan, not a Girl Guide, right? I had it. Okay. Facilitating training programs for corporate customers in a range of topics, including performance management, business etiquette, interviewing skills, and professional networking. She also spearheads Regency's ESG and CSR initiatives, including their partnership with COSTAT to provide employment support and training for formerly incarcerated citizens. Currently enrolled in doctoral studies with the University of Trinidad and Tobago, Lara is exploring workplace policies to support female employees experiencing perimenopause and menopause. Her education includes an MBA from Henley Business School and certificates in industrial relations, labor law, behavioral economics, and contract law. Folks, we know PDG Lara as past district governor of 2010-11. Lara, is that it? And she has
11-12.
11-12. And she has spoken to us many, many times on many, many topics. So please welcome PDG Lara with a rousing District 7030 last night of district leadership facilitation session. Welcome, PDG Lara, and we're happy to have you on this most important topic on the Council on Legislation. That is how we are governed, and we want to hear from you how we do this and how we do it well. We welcome you to the stage.
Thank you very much indeed. Good evening, fellow Rotarians. Thank you, PDG Sonia, for that lovely welcome. And yes, I now look a lot younger than I am, although Rotary has aged me considerably, I feel. But Thank you for the introduction. And I really want to commend the district for having this conversation about the Council on Legislation. Some of you would have already seen this at the district conference in Trinidad, but it is really a very important information sharing session. And the timing is great because you have a couple of weeks to implement the changes before the Rotary year ends. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go through my slides. It is the same presentation that we did at district conference. But I also then, when I'm done with that, I want to just share with you all a sort of a summary sheet, which I can email to everybody. The district does have a copy of this. So just to really synthesize all of the changes that are required by clubs. So let me go straight in. So we'll take questions at the end, put them in the chat, make a note of them. And of course, I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, so Council on Legislation 2025. Let's get straight into it. So can somebody just confirm that my slide changed?
It did.
Perfect.
It
Thanks.
did. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the Council on Legislation is essentially Rotary's parliament. In Rotary International, we have two different mechanisms for changing the way that our organization is run. We either have resolutions or we have legislation. The Council on Resolutions meets online, and we being representatives from districts around the Rotary world, submit what are known as resolutions, requests for action, which are considered by the board of Rotary or the trustees of the Rotary Foundation. Legislation, on the other hand, are actual changes to three constitutional documents. That is the standard Rotary Club Constitution, which we all must comply with, the Rotary International Constitution, or the bylaws of Rotary International. The Council on Legislation meets every 3 years, and I have had the honor of representing our district at 2 Council on Legislations, most recently in April of this year. So the Council on Legislation is held in Chicago, and every district in the world sends a representative. We have to undergo a certain amount of training ahead of time. A lot of information is shared, and all of the resolutions and changes and proposals and amendments that the council considers come from Rotary clubs and districts around the world. There are 515 possible voting members, representatives, and at this year's COL, as we call it, Council on Legislation, there were 496 in attendance. When we had Council on Legislation in 2022, it was done in a hybrid format because of COVID. So we had a considerable number of our delegates joining us remotely. And whilst it worked, it was very challenging because of all the time zone differences. As you can appreciate, we have Rotarians from around the world. So a lot of our sessions went late in the night, or we had to be up very early in the morning. So Rotary does not give the option now to join remotely. You go in person to attend the COL, which is about just over 3.5, 4 days in Chicago. And we had 86 enactments this year. So some enactments, some proposals don't even make it to the floor of the council because they are not considered to be in compliance with the rules. There may be a lot of duplications, or in some cases, districts withdraw their enactments. So by the time we get to Chicago in April, we had 86 enactments to consider. And the way that it's done is that the district or districts, because districts can collaborate on these enactments, will present their enactment and the justification. The floor is then open to delegates to argue for or against, and then a vote is taken. And we have voting machines that we use I do have photographs, but this presentation format doesn't really allow for that, unfortunately. So 31 enactments were passed in April 2025. So you're going to see them referred to as 25 dash, and then the number of the enactment. 25 refers, of course, to COL 2025, and then the number after that is the number of the enactment. So the very first one, 25-01, and what I'm sharing with you today are the changes that Rotary clubs need to be aware of. I'm not going through all of the changes because a number of them actually apply to the RI Constitution and the RI bylaws. What I'm sharing with you tonight are the amendments that you need to make to your Rotary Club Constitution. So SRCC is Standard Rotary Club Constitution. And again, we have a summary of this list that can be emailed to you so you can go through your constitution article by article and make the changes. And these are not optional changes. These are not changes that you necessarily have to take to a club forum, although of course it's good to advise your members of what's happening. These are mandatory changes that every Rotary club must make to your standard Rotary Club Constitution. So the first amendment is Article 3.
They think that you can do that without voting of the members.
Sorry. No, this is mandatory, folks. This is not optional. You can, as the board of your club, make these amendments and share the new constitution with your members. It's good to advise them of the changes, but this is not something that clubs can opt out of. So we can discuss that afterwards, but just to be clear, these are changes that Rotary International is mandating that clubs make to your standard Rotary Club Constitution. I do have a copy of the new constitution, constitution in English. The other languages will come out in due course, but if you want the wholesale SRCC in English, I do have a copy that I can send. Just WhatsApp me, connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, and I can send it. And I have my email at the end of this session anyway. So first amendment is to insert the word community before service in Article 3B. Simple one, just really to specify the type of service that we give to obviously the various stakeholders that we serve. Amendment 06. Every Rotary Club is required to submit to the members a mid-year financial report. This reporting date has been changed from the 31st of December to the 31st of January. Of course, this makes sense because you are reporting for the period July to December. So it makes sense to give you the month of January to prepare your financial report so you can submit it in time for end of January. So this is an amendment to the deadline for the mandatory mid-year financial report. 2507, this is an amendment to the bylaws of Rotary International. This is not a club amendment, but it's an important one for us in the district to be aware of because Rotary has now decreased the number of members that are required to charter a new club. And it has gone from 20 to 15. Some more senior Rotarians may remember that it used to be a lot higher than 20. But this is now a global amendment to the bylaws of Rotary International that any district that wishes to charter a new club can do so now with 15 members. Amendment number 27. This is an amendment to challenges in the election of directors of Rotary International or governors. And this is an amendment that basically was submitted by the board of Rotary International. So if, for example, there is a challenge to the election or nomination of a district governor, Currently, the requirement was 10 clubs. So a single club in a district cannot challenge a governor nominee, a nomination. But in the past or the current format, 10 clubs could, or 20% of the total number of clubs in a district. Those minimum thresholds have been raised by the Board of Rotary International. So now if there is a check, and this also includes directors who you know come from our zone to serve on the Board of Rotary International. So if our zone nominates somebody to be a director of Rotary International, 20 clubs or 30% of the total number of clubs in the zone must now come together to propose a challenge. So it is a higher threshold to challenge the nomination of a director or a governor. And the board of RI, proposed this really, I think, to make sure that these challenges were not done in a whimsical fashion, that they actually were substantive challenges. So it required a little bit more work by clubs to actually propose a challenge in the process. And there is an entire process for how challenges are to be reported and dealt with. Resolution number 28, and this is a very substantive change, now allows the Board of Rotary International to instruct a club to terminate the membership of a Rotarian or a Rotaractor. Traditionally, as many of you will know, the termination of an individual Rotarian and or Rotaractor is done by the club, perhaps with guidance from the district. But now Rotary International, again, following a process, the rules of natural justice apply. The individual Rotarian or Rotaractor has a chance to be heard. So it is not an automatic thing, but the Board of Rotary International now has the authority, based on an investigation, to terminate the membership of an individual Rotarian. So an important understanding that if you as a club have a Rotarian that you're trying to terminate for some reason, you do now have the opportunity, if you so choose, to approach the Board of Rotary International. If you're feeling that the district is not supporting you, or you want to go higher up the food chain. But again, there is a process, evidence-based, natural justice-based. Okay, so it's not.
That must be an endless process. I don't understand how RI board would occupy themselves with that.
Well, I think it's come basically on the basis of some Rotary districts having past district governors who are influencing elections, who are buying votes. Not in our district, I'm happy to share, but there are some districts that struggle with senior Rotarians causing a lot of problems. And the district won't obviously discipline or remove them because they have status as a past governor or past president. So this now gives the club or clubs the opportunity for RI board to weigh in. I don't think this will happen very often, Conrad, but it just gives us one more level of support or appeal if we, are dealing with a troublesome Rotarian. Okay.
So, sorry to interrupt you. So if we terminate somebody, that Rotarian then has an opportunity to appeal to RI. That's what you're really saying. It doesn't go automatically to RI.
Yeah, there's a process. So the individual is given the opportunity to be heard, allegations presented, etc. It's pretty well laid out in the RI bylaws how this can be done. So it can take time, but the idea is that the Rotary Club now has the opportunity to go above the district, because at the moment, well, until 1st of July, we really can only go as high as the district to get relief. But now you can go higher than that if indeed your problem is, as I say, with a past district governor who's a member of your club, or a past AG, and the district is just not willing to support them. You can go higher up, but there is a process.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of the things that Rotary is very conscious of is not being sued.
Yeah.
So, particularly, of course, in the American courts and how litigious American Rotarians might be. So the process is very, very clear about, as I said, natural justice. 2536 is an amendment to diversity of membership clauses. So this will be in your constitution, Article 4, Section 2 and Article 9, Section 2. And this is the inclusion of the word sex before gender. So you basically will have both words now in your definition of diversity. Of course, those of us in HR on this call will know, but most of us should be aware of the fact that sex and gender are not the same thing. And so this is a reflection of a modern understanding of the two terminologies, and of course to support Rotary's push for diversity, equity, and inclusion. 2542. This is an amendment to the bylaws of Rotary International, Article 3.020. And this gives the board of Rotary International now the authority to terminate a club that misuses foundation funds or breaches foundation stewardship policies. So many of us may have had Rotary grants. This is particularly important if you are getting a global grant or you're in a global grant partnership. If there is an allegation, a suspicion, an accusation that funds coming from the Rotary Foundation are being misused or the stewardship policies have been breached, again, following a process of investigation, appeal, etc., the board of Rotary International now has the authority to terminate an entire club, not just an individual member. So you may have one or two persons in your club who are handling the grant, managing the grant, but now their failure to follow the guidelines or their misuse of funds could now threaten the existence of the entire Rotary or Rotaract club, because of course Rotaract clubs are now eligible for grants and foundation support. So again, this would have come out of experiences that clubs in some other parts of the world have had, where funds that were given for grants were not used correctly. And year after year, the Rotarian responsible may have changed. So it would appear to be almost the entire club or a significant number of club members are engaged in the misuse of foundation funds. Now, both this and the termination of an individual Rotarian, highly unlikely that we will ever in our district get anywhere near using these or being subject to these powers that the board of Rotary International has. But it's important to understand that if you do access and get grant funding, that this now is something that the board could do. So very important before you, especially global grants, you take on a global grant, that you have proper stewardship and fiduciary responsibilities, which we've talked about many times in this district for our grant, as part of our grant training. 2549 is the increase in per capita dues. So you will of course see this coming from your July 1 semi-annual invoices, and you need to make sure that your members are aware. Now, there were a number of proposals for different increases in dues. This was the one that actually finally got to the floor and was debated, and a significant number of Rotarians from around the world opposed the increase in dues. We have the 5-year forecast from Rotary International. Again, I have that if you wish to see it. There was a lot of conversation around how Rotary could cut costs instead of increasing dues. But at the end of the day, the proposal passed. And so, and I also, if you wish, have a record of my voting on any of these, if you wish to see that, fully transparent. It's been shared with all of the governors. But the new Rotary International semi-annual dues will take effect 1st of July, of course. So $41 for the next year, $42.75 the year after that, $44.63, and then $46.50. So those are the increases that you'll see reflected in your district invoice. Your invoice from Rotary International. And then there is the very interesting Resolution 72, which removes from Rotary districts the requirement to hold an annual conference. This was actually proposed by the Board of Rotary International. They did amend it slightly, but the resolution was passed and approved. So what this means is that a district can hold a conference every year if they wish, but they are not required to. Now, as again, I'm sure you can appreciate, being a global organization, in some parts of the world, having a district conference is not a challenge because everybody can drive to the venue. In districts like ours, where there are significant costs to fly to a venue, then it is a challenge for people to attend. One of our delegates was from Nigeria, and he was totally against this because they have at their conferences on average 1,500 delegates. They have huge district conferences, and I was thinking about, you know, us trying to get a little 250, 300 at our end. But the point is that it is expensive. We saw that here in Trinidad. It doesn't mean that you don't have to have one. It just means that you're not mandated to. So there may be a year where the governor decides, because of funding or venue options or whatever, maybe there's another pandemic, whatever might be going on, that they choose not to have an annual district conference. They may have half a dozen smaller leadership workshops in different countries, or, you know, different formats are now available. I know we all love the fellowship and it is an amazing experience, but this is meant to give clubs and districts more control over how they manage their affairs, in particular their training and learning programs. And as you would have all seen this in the last district conference and our ongoing online programs, that the training is now called learning. This is designed to evoke a more inclusive and interactive type of format for programs. So across the board, everything is now PELs instead of PETs. And across the board with our district training, our presidents and secretaries-elect training, etc. And funnily enough, this was in April. We approved this amendment, this resolution, sorry, but most of us were already using PELs because we had already started doing some of our training online. So this would have come out of the from the president of Rotary International and come through. So now we are focused on learning. There are learning facilitators in the clubs. In fact, just on Monday, I did a presentation on the role and responsibilities of the learning facilitators for District 7020. So if there are any learning facilitators here tonight who'd like to learn a little bit more about their role, again, very happy to share that information. So it's important to understand that these changes have to be implemented by the 1st of July. So you have a couple of weeks. The board, the secretary of the club, the incoming secretary should really make the changes and then share with all members. As I mentioned, these are not optional. I'm going to give you my email address and my cell number, and then I'm going to change quickly to the summary sheet to go through that, and then I'll take some questions. So if anybody would like a copy of any of the documents, the new RI Constitution, bylaws, the new Standard Rotary Club Constitution, the RI 5-year forecast, my voting record at COL, just drop me an email and I'm happy to share that with you. So let me now, oh, sorry. Here we go. Right. Can you all see this? Can somebody just say yes?
Yes, yes.
Lovely. Okay, perfect.
Can you make it
So
a little
just-
bigger, please?
Yeah, hang on.
Maybe zoom in.
There we go. Is that better?
Thank you.
You should.
Yes,
you
I'm on
should
my
try-
phone, so that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So again, I can email this to you. This is the summary, and this just came out from Rotary today or yesterday. So just a summary of the essential changes for clubs and districts. Number of members required to start a club, 2507. We talked about that. Member termination. The So this is something that the board now may instruct a club to terminate a member. The member has 30 days to show why they should not be terminated. And to your point, 2/3 vote of the RI board is required to proceed. So again, there's rules and regulations that govern these amendments. Membership changes, aligning bylaws of Rotary International with the policy to add the word sex to the list of characteristics that cannot be used to limit membership. So essentially, as I mentioned, you're adding sex next to gender, and we are encouraging diversity, that you cannot use a person's sex or their gender to limit their membership or to refuse them membership. 2542 authorizes the board to suspend or terminate a club that breaches foundation stewardship policies. As far as club finances go, as I mentioned, the deadline for your mid-year report is now 31st of January. Dues have gone up, as we talked about. Under the district, there are governor responsibilities. So the governors are now required to promote the RI strategic plan as well as participation in grant programs. These were just some additions to the responsibilities of a district governor, which are fairly lengthy to begin with. If a district uses ballots for the election of a governor, which we do not in our district, there is a process now for retaining of those ballots. Again, this has all happened, some of these changes, because there have been elections of governors in some districts where there has been vote rigging. There was even one district that set up clubs purely to vote. So they chartered a new club full of friends, I presume, of the nominee, just to give that one club one vote. And so, yeah, lots of dubious behavior.
A lot of people not living by the four-way test.
That's, I was just about to say, not befitting Rotarians at all. But in some districts, being a Rotary governor has a lot of prestige, influence. So not like us, we have to work hard in our district. But I think in some districts, it's a slightly different version of what a governor is. And again, same thing. Now there's a change because of to reduce conflict campaigning, election complaints. So this is where they've increased the number of clubs that must challenge. It's really very messy in some districts. Thankfully, not ours. District conference, as I mentioned, no longer required, although it is encouraged. But the idea is that governors now and districts have more flexibility to meet the needs of their members. So, as I said, we could have multiple small conferences across the Caribbean. We could have virtual conferences. We could have one every 2 years. We now have the opportunity to create a learning schedule that works for us. And then, of course, the change to PELS. There are a couple of changes to the RI officers. So this is the nominating committee for directors. So you may be aware that each director on Rotary International's board represents 2 zones. So we are zone 34, we partner with zone 33. Zones 33 and 34 together submit a nominee for director of Rotary International. And what we have traditionally done is alternate. One year it's 33, next it's 34, and we go back and forth. These, of course, are past district governors, people who've served at senior level in Rotary in our zones. But the idea is that the districts are more involved in creating the nominating committee to select the director. Then there is an amendment on how Rotary International officers and committee members can be suspended and removed. This was really just a standardization because there were some differences across the different policies. So even a board member at Rotary International, a director of Rotary International, a trustee at the Rotary Foundation can be removed or suspended. I'm sorry, I'm sharing all my business with you there. And this is a So again, there's a process. Right, now, Council on Legislation. So the next one will be 26, 27, 2028. And all districts have the opportunity to submit enactments to the COL. So if our district wanted to change something in either of those three constitutional documents, we have the opportunity. A club can go through the district governor and submit it, and it has to be submitted by March of the year before the COL. So basically a year before the COL, because all of these go out to the whole COL group, all of the representatives from around the world. And as I mentioned at the beginning, some are withdrawn, some are not considered appropriate because of the language or because it contradicts another enactment or something like that. So we kind of whittle through them and to end up with the ones that we'll actually vote on. But if an individual club or a group of clubs would like to make a change, then you have the opportunity. You've got a lot of time now because we've just had COL through our district to submit proposals. There is now a change to the term of a COL representative in terms of when the term ends. We now end on the 30th of June after the COL. So my term will come to an end officially in a couple of weeks. And the district then can decide who they wish to, if indeed I am to be replaced, who they wish to replace me. Now, this is Council on Legislation. The Council on Resolutions goes on all the time. It's online. We don't meet in person for that. So the COR is happening all the time. That normally starts around October, and that's a 3-year term. So I think I have 1 more year on that, I think, I have to double check. And then finally, Rotary zones. So this is, again, some of the Rotary districts, the rezoning of districts now has changed to allow the Board of Rotary International to consider a number of different factors, not just geography, when looking at how zones are formed or the boundaries of zones. And then the final enactment worthy of note is that Rotary may not issue any statements that are of a political or public nature. Now, this particular resolution came up as a result of Rotary International's stated support for Ukraine. As many of you will know, the General Secretary of the General Secretary of Rotary International, John Hugo, is from Ukraine. And for those of us that have been to any of the zone programs in the last couple of years, there's been a real emphasis on support for Ukraine, which in and of itself is not wrong. But for Rotary International as a global organization to issue a statement, which they did at the time of the invasion, is something that a lot of Rotarians around the world had a problem with. And I think also when you think about the fact that other statements about other conflicts or other invasions had not been made. So this statement, the amendment is really now that Rotary will not issue statements. Individual districts can, zones may want to, but Rotary International will not. So folks, I'm going to end there and stop sharing. Happy to take some questions. And as I mentioned, very happy to send any documents that you wish. But really and truly, just to close by saying, the changes to your standard Rotary Club constitution are not optional. Thank you very much.
Thank you, PDG Lara. So I'm going to start with that, with your last comment, because Evangeline has made a suggestion. Can a letter be sent to all clubs advising that these changes are mandatory? I know of a particular club that actually voted not to adopt a particular clause of a proposed change.
Yes, we can. I mean, the instructions, the summary list of changes, I already sent that through the assistant governors, through the DG, Soraya and her incoming team. But if it would help, that's not really for me to do. I think that would be for the governor. to do, although I'm happy to craft it for Debbie to send out.
Yeah.
Let me chat with Debbie Evangeline. I have no problem doing that at all. Oh, here
And
she is.
Debbie just
Call her
Debbie
name.
is just coming into the room. So
Perfect.
I'm gonna circle back to that, Lara.
Sure. Yeah.
Grayson had a question. So if a conference isn't held, is PELS still required? And is it mandatory for the PE and the SE to attend, President-elect and Secretary-elect to attend?
So yes and yes. The district conference is not connected to PELS at all. The only reason we have traditionally done it together is because we're getting on a plane and we're going to be in the same space. But as you would appreciate, Grayson, a lot of the PELS has been done remotely since COVID. And so a district has to do PELS and CELS, but it is not connected to the district conference. We have just done it together in our district because, as I said, people are flying to a particular country and, you know, we've got the hotel and so on. But PELS and CELS is mandatory and it will continue whether there's a district conference or not. It may be virtual. I imagine it's probably going to be more virtual as we go along, but there may also be regional ones in different countries. There might be a French one, a Dutch one, an English one. That's up to the district. But the two things are not connected. We connect them in our minds because we've traditionally done them in the same space, but they're not actually connected.
Absolutely. And so PELS and CELS is mandatory for all officers that presidents and secretaries taking up that post in the July. It is so important that DGE Soraya had a whole session for people who were not able to attend in Trinidad, that on Saturday just gone we had like a whole day of training for the secretary and the president to actually be able to take up that role.
And
So,
also I would say, Sonia, just to chime in, I'm pretty sure it's still the case, but if a president-elect or secretary-elect has not done PELS, they cannot hold office. The exception would be if they're a returning president or secretary, but I'm pretty sure, and I can double check that it is mandatory for you to hold office. You have to have done the training.
They must, I mean, the fact that we have PELS online for X amount of weeks, and we really cover a diverse set of topics that equip those presidents and secretaries, and indeed club officers for their roles, makes it inexcusable for someone not to attend PELS and CELS.
Except
Yes,
the statement
Conrad.
is not correct. The statement is not correct. The district governor can decide someone can still serve without having attended PELS if they have previous experience in that kind of thing. Is that not correct?
Yeah, that's what I just said. That's what I said, Conrad.
Oh, I thought you said cannot become president if they don't accept
I said
PELS.
except if they've served before.
My apologies.
Yeah. No problem.
So
You listening to the Austrian translation or are you doing the English?
I have some other questions, but when everybody's done.
just give us a second there, Conrad. So I'm just going to circle back to Evangeline's comment, because DG Debbie has just joined the meeting. She's rejoined because she was here before she went off to District 7020, and we're glad to have her back. DG, we have Evangeline in the chat asking, can a letter be sent to all clubs advising that these changes are mandatory? And the changes that we're talking about are the changes that PDG Lara just spoke about in her presentation from the COL. I know of a particular club that actually voted not to adopt a particular clause of a proposed change. And we wanted you to weigh in on that, DG.
Okay, so I came in with my standard Rotary Club constitution because I was presenting on that in the other meeting. mandatory changes where the standard Rotary Club constitution does not say any provisions that you could adopt something that is inconsistent. You have to stick by what's in the standard Rotary Club constitution. So for Evangeline's question, I would need to know what it is they were not adopting to answer that properly.
Debbie, sorry, let me just interject, Debbie, and thank you. Remember, we had sent to all clubs a couple of weeks ago, I did a summary of the changes that clubs needed to do. Yes, they're a district, there's RI, etc., but the club changes. All we need to do is, and I'm assuming it was sent out by you or Soraya to everybody, is put that in a letter letting clubs know that those changes are mandatory. So it's changes, for example, including the word sex as well as gender, including the word community. That's, I mean, I'm assuming it's the sex and gender one because that one had got a lot of conversation at COL, but they don't have an option.
Right. And Lara, I actually have that on my desk, what you sent out with the obliterations. But the good thing is you sent me, I think today, RI has published the standard Rotary Club constitution with those changes incorporated because I checked it and they are there. So what I always say to clubs is rather than try to go striking out things, you adopt the new standard Rotary Club constitution and replacement of the old. And that way you have it in one document.
Yeah. I think what they want to do, though, I do think it's wise to share with your clubs what the changes are.
They could see it.
Right. So you just highlight we've gone from A to B or C to D, but there's hardly any for clubs. But the key thing is that they are not, they're not optional. Rotary International is telling you if you want to be a Rotary Club, you have to abide by this constitution, which takes effect 1st of July. I see a comment from Rishi. I don't have a Word version, Rishi. We have it as a PDF. It will not be in the governance documents yet because they literally sent it from COL today. And I sent it to the governors and asked that it be sent to all clubs. But if you send me an email, Rishi, I will send you the PDF version. I'll put my email again in the chat for anybody who wants it. But yeah, but I think clubs need to know, right, these are the changes. But you're right, Debbie, you just adopt the new one. It's not an option. It's not a debate.
No, and the new one is available, Lara. So we probably just need to remind.
Well, somebody's saying that it's not on the Rotary.org yet.
Okay.
It may be by tomorrow.
It does take a little time to, I guess they get them out and then they upload them to.
Yeah, and we only have English right now, unfortunately. It will have to be translated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Jean-Marc is asking, he's saying he'd have to verify if the new one is already in French. And
I don't think so.
You know, it would take a little time. Kim has saying, when changes are made to the Constitution, does it have to be ratified by the club? Is there a procedure to confirm that the changes to the Constitution are adopted?
So that's, Lara, just jump in. That's what we just talked about, right? You just adopt the new standard Rotary Club Constitution for June 2025 and keep it for the next 3 years.
I think, Kim, your question is, it's not a vote. It's not you can put a resolution to the club to adopt the new SRCC, but you can't not do it. You can't vote against it. If you vote against it, then you're not a Rotary Club. You've got to be out of Rotary, right? So really and truly, the best way just to support what the DG is saying is to just note through your club's email or at a club meeting, we're sending the new standard Rotary Club Constitution, which will take effect 1st of July. All members were notified on the 23rd of June via email at 0600, and that's it. So you note the process that you took, but it is not a ratification. It is not a voting. These are not optional changes.
I think for banking purposes, Lara, we just do it as a formality. We adopt it at the first board meeting. So you have a written note that this is the adopted version, and that could be done too.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to be noted somewhere, but it, again, just to make it clear, you can't accept some of the changes and not all others, or we don't like that one, we don't want to do that one. Sorry. Well, sorry, not sorry.
Questions in the chat. So yes, so it can be noted in the minutes.
Agreed.
Kim.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Kim. Yeah.
No further questions in the chat, but I see Conrad chomping at the bit, and he
No,
did
no,
indicate
no.
that
I
he had
mean,
questions.
no, I lost the picture.
Go
I'm not
ahead.
sure if we can hear. Does the minimum number of members, does that affect in terms of the payments that you have to pay, the minimum payments to RI?
No, because the minimum now will be however many members you have, right? So if you have 10 members, you pay 10 lots of semi-annual dues.
But wasn't it so that you had a minimum payment no matter how many members you had?
No, the RI semi-annual dues are based on the number of members. I'm not aware that you have a minimum $1,000 per club or anything like that. It's based on the number of members.
Yes, based on the number of members.
And that was quite a contentious one, as you can imagine. Even in our district, a lot of the PDGs were not happy about that. But there are many, many small clubs around the Rotary world that do phenomenal projects. So this is why it, came to the floor. Grayson has his hand up.
Yeah.
We're going to see on camera, Grayson.
Quick question as we're talking about dues. Just to confirm, the district dues remain the same?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So guys, Rishi is saying, are there any other countries where the notary involvement is required for amending constitutions?
I know in my travels, it's, as far as I know, it's Aruba and Bonaire that required. Nobody else told me about having to use a notary for it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
So Renama also needs notary changes.
Okay.
So in that case, if you need a notary change, again, send me an email, because I can send you the official email from Rotary International that instructs clubs, this is your new constitution. So that may be good to have that as a printout, just to justify or whatever if you need something a bit more official this is from our governing body, our governing organization.
Okay.
Oh, it's costly.
Yeah, Rita is saying Curacao also, and it's costly and it requires sufficient time to implement. Yes, indeed.
Well, I presented this when April, and we're now in June. So you've had 2 months.
There you go. So guys, unless we don't have any more questions, I know this topic has really generated a lot of interest, and I want to say thank you to all of you that signed up this evening to come. It really shows how interested people are in understanding about this Council on Legislation and the Council on Resolutions. It is important that we understand what the mechanics of these arteries of Rotary, what they do and how they affect our lives, and how we can impact the future of Rotary for us and other Rotarians around the world. So we have had PDG Lara, who is very thorough and has taken this responsibility she's taken it very seriously, and we appreciate the time and effort that she puts into making a presentation like this, but also the time and effort that it takes to being that representative on this Council on Legislation, as have our other representatives from the district. This is by no means an easy undertaking, and the commitment is while the Council on Legislation meets every 3 years, The commitment is ongoing. The training is ongoing. The COR meets all the time, so you're constantly involved and immersed.
Can
So,
I before you present me with a bouquet of flowers, may I or my trophy, may I share a few photographs? Because this PowerPoint format doesn't really do well with photographs.
Sure.
And I just wanted to share, just indulge me, folks, because those of you that haven't been to a COL, I just wanted to sort of give you a visual idea of how it is. So when you walk into the hall, obviously you sit, they assign you seating. It may be numbered by district or it might be alphabetical. And you get this, I printed my booklet, I'm a little old fashioned like that, but you get this little voting machine. So every time a resolution comes up, you are then required to vote yes or no on it. So they go live on the screen and then the results are in real time posted up on the large screen. Just to give you an idea, we had, as I mentioned, the presentation of the 5-year forecast, but this is what the room looks like. There's like 490 old white men and then a few of us others. Let's have a look. What else have I got? Rotary Club Central. This is some presentations by Rotary on different things that they've been doing. Here I am in the hall. This is Joe Roth. For those of you who may know him from, he's from Florida. So this is the hall. It's a huge hall at the Hyatt Regency in Chicago. What else can I show you? Let me see. I think I've got a couple more pictures of people in the room. So this is one of the microphones. So if you wish to either speak on a resolution or against it, you have to raise your card. You have 4 different color cards that you use, and then you line up by the microphone. And then here on the left, you can't really see the head table. And the board of Rotary International is sat over here on the right with the president and Mark Maloney, board of the trustees, etc. So I'll show you one more and then I'll get off the screen. So again, this is a lot of the Japanese governors stand up and speak, but you can't see them. They're quite short. So he's on the screen here. You get timed. Everything is timed to the minute. And then they put up all of the voting and everything on the screen. So you can see one of the cards here. This is the blue and yellow striped card, is a parliamentary procedure card. So it's quite intense, but it's like a parliament, right? It's like the UN General Assembly, and everything is done in the 7 or 8 languages of Rotary. So there's also on the side here, you can't really see, but all of this is translation booths. So it's a pretty significant and expensive undertaking. My understanding from the last report is that COL, just that week, costs about $2 million US. So I'm going to stop sharing there. There we go. Thank you very much.
wow, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. What an awesome opportunity. And, you know, thanks for doing that for us, Lara. So PDG Lara. So the DG has come and we put her right into the melee. And here she is to bring her greetings. And DG, it's the last learning facilitation session. So don't know if you want to have a little say at the end here before
I think I should. But before I go into that, Sonia, there's a link that went out today. I just want to talk about it briefly. We have a young Rotaractor in the district who has been diagnosed with cancer, and the link would have gone out on our WhatsApp channels today. For those of you on the call, hopefully it has reached your club. This is a young man who was an Interact president, very, very active within the Rotary family, moved on to Rotaract, was community services director, accepted to study medicine, and got diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. I think there's uncertainty between whether it's stage 2 or 4, 2 different reports. So I share that because we are trying to raise some funds to help him out. He's part of the Rotary family. So for clubs on the call, if you could look into that and see whether your club could make a contribution. Having said that, I would start by thanking PDG Lara. It's always good, right, to see that someone who is a non-lawyer is willing to step up and take on something like this. And as Sonia said, I think this is 4 years that Lara has been doing the COL, and she has been doing a fantastic job at it. Sometimes when I look at the reports, I say to myself, listen, she needs to come to court with me because she's so detailed, in terms of her reporting and what she brings back to the table. So PDG Lara, thank you so much for doing this important session, needed and necessary before the incumbent team picks up office. PDG Sonia, it has been a long road for us in terms of training, right? We started last year, January 2024, in terms of learning, facilitating, and training. And you have been consistent in terms of what you are called upon to do, and always bringing your knowledge to the table, not just here as a learning facilitator, hosting the session, but making the direct contributions to everything that was going on. So I thank you for that, for your support of me as a governor and ensuring that we continued to make District 7030 shine during this Rotary year. So I wish everybody on the call all the best. Sonia, thank you again. And guys, I'm looking forward to July 1st when I can kick back, relax, and look at the new team, as they hit the ground running. And I see Krista's laughing. Sonia, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, DG. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be your learning facilitator for this Rotary year. It has been my pleasure and my privilege. Guys, as the DG said, we started back in January last year with the PELS sessions. And then we came into this Rotary year where we had some really significant sessions. We talked about the magic of the foundation in November. We did My Body is My Body in January. We had that amazing AI session, how AI can help make our lives easier in May, and now another stellar performance tonight by PDG Lara on the Council on Legislation. I cannot end my my role tonight without thanking all the presenters who made learning facilitation really impactful and intentional. We chose everyone because we knew they were experts in their area, and no one, absolutely no one, failed to live up to the task. And we truly appreciate that. District 7030 has been a leading district in our zone, and we continue to lift that bar very high. I want to thank as well our interpreters who have been here throughout every session. We cannot get these things done for our multilingual district without our interpreters. Tonight we've had Paul and Evelyn, but we have had the District 7030 slate of interpreters who have helped us throughout our year and a half of service. Sean and Maria, who behind the scenes, we cannot do this without them. This is our district communications and our district communications team, public image. They are truly stars in our district and definitely our zone. We cannot do things in our zone without our team somewhere poking their heads in to make sure that the zone presentation runs like clockwork. I also need to thank my team that supported me in the background, who don't like the spotlight, and I don't know why I am always the one in the front, but I have a team of Kemi, Leanne, Shem, who supported me and made sure that the flyers looked hot, that the the topics were captivating. They also had some ideas on where we go. So I want to make sure that I give everyone their props. District 7030 is in good hands in the new Rotary year as we unite for good. Having come out of the magic of Rotary, we are the premier service organization in the world, guys. We cannot do Rotary service without you Rotarians who make this the service club of choice. Your being here tonight at the end of the Rotary year is testimony to what we do and why we do it and why we're so great at it. I want to thank everybody, and I look forward, like the DG, I'm going to be sitting back, sipping my little rum coolers, chilling and watching what's going on in the team. I'm always available to help, always available to here to be of service to you all. Thank you so much. Good evening and happy end of Rotary year as we start the new one. Thanks so much for joining, guys. See you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.